So, why do we want to talk about the weather? We're talking about Hamilton's Climate Change Action Plan. Did anyone in the room know we were actually doing this work? Show of hands. All right, 5% of the population. Awesome. So we're going to tell you how you can get involved with this. Why are we talking climate change and weather? Impacts of climate change are happening locally. I'm going to talk about polar bears. Not going to happen in this whole conversation. We're going to talk about things that are happening in your backyard. We're also doing stuff to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This is important, and there'll be a quick slide on that one. 2 types of actions. Everyone is either obsessed with, and I mean obsessed, with reducing your greenhouse gas emissions, or taking action because you realize weather impacts are happening. Freeze-thaw cycles, rain and flooding events, thunderstorms, wind, potentially tornadoes. I think one of those hit Hamilton in the past 12 years. Things to think about, how do we prepare for this? Next slide. So the good news, honestly, is that we have been reducing our emissions. I've been tracking you guys. It sounds scary. I have been tracking the emissions from a large number of our sectors since 2008. The good news is we had set up a target that we wanted to have 20% reduction in emissions in 2020 by our 2006 levels. Guess what? We're reduced by 29%, and that was in 2012. So we have a new target set up by Council for the community, 80% by 2050. I think it's doable. There's been a lot of stuff that's been happening at other levels of government that have helped us along the way, but there is still need for local action to drive action on climate change. Next slide. So as I said before, here are some examples of why there are 2 sets of actions. I always tell people to think about your actions between the 2 in the Venn diagram in the middle. What kind of actions reduce emissions, but also help you prepare and deal with the impacts when they happen? So green roofs is a good example. Better insulation, so you won't have to heat your house as much, so therefore you're not using much carbon-intensive energy. Reduce your peak demand of your energy usage. Expand your tree canopy. Next slide. So what do the impacts of climate change look like here in Hamilton? Well, we know the average mean temperature since the 1970s has increased by 0.9 degrees Celsius. And everyone's probably going to say, that sounds great. I'd love a 1 degree Celsius change because it means the golf season will open up sooner. Right. It also means skiing season is going to be disappearing. Internationally, if they're concerned about climate change and temperatures increasing past 2 degrees Celsius, do you think a 0.9 degrees Celsius increase is a good thing over time here in Hamilton? No, it's not. This is why we also have increasing precipitation events. So it's getting warmer, it's getting wetter. Our total precipitation has increased by 26 millimeters. But I think we can all say, and based on these pictures, when you increase precipitation in some parts of Hamilton, you will have these flooding events. So Red Hill Valley, flooded. Microbursts. The pictures on the bottom are always the ones I like to have people look at. Same date, around July 22nd, 2012, you've got a Tim Hortons up in the mountain, flooded. But that's okay. You can still get your Tim Hortons. Get your rubber dinghy going. You'll be fine. The drive-thru's still open. Same down by the Dundas area and stuff that you have trails, drought conditions. So I will give you the overview of weather conditions, but honestly, don't think of them as all of Hamilton. Think of it as hitting parts of Hamilton. Next slide. We know you're taking action. We do. You may not be aware you're taking action, but we have photographs. So we've asked people to submit to tell us how are you taking action. So right now, if you're on social media, see I use air quotations, right now, I want to think, as we have this panel discussion, what are some of the things you're doing in climate change? I want you to tweet it out, if you can. Hashtag ClimateHamAunt, or join us at ClimateConvo. That's our Twitter feed for this conversation today. I'd like to see at least 5 hits. If that doesn't happen, then I know my discussion with you has failed. Next slide. So as I said before, we've been talking about this. We have been doing engagement with the community since July 2014. We have had conversations. I and crew have gone out to coffee shops. I can tell you I've hit the majority of the wards. I've been in the urban areas and I've been in the rural areas. I've had conversations with people downtown. I've had conversations with people at public libraries. I've been to your mom and pop coffee shops. I have talked to people and farmers. And they are concerned about climate change. Next slide. So, We have about 65 people who've spent a good 6 months with us in terms of stakeholders and citizens to start developing actions around addressing climate change here in Hamilton. Short term, 0 to 3 years, medium term, 3 to 10 years, and longer, 10 years. We have 9 themes. When we were originally looking at this, we thought we'd do 6 themes. We have 9 themes. And I can tell you right now, there's not that many municipalities who have done this already. So we have agriculture, we have awareness and education, we have people and health, we have local economy and business, and their panelists actually represent the steering committee and some of the members of some of those task forces. And now I'm going to do the big reveal. We're at the point now where we've had our task force come up with priority actions, the top 10 actions we can be taking collectively in the community, including the city, on addressing climate change to get us moving that yardstick further. So next slide, here's some of them right now. Agricultural and food, Dave will be talking about. Awareness and education. This is the biggest theme that's come up from a lot of people in our community. We need more ongoing awareness and education for people to change their behavior patterns and to really understand what climate change means. I heard a ding. All right, so then there's land use and infrastructure. The website, hit it. I'm only showing you the top 10 priority actions. There's more than these. These were our top 10, but there's a whole wealth of actions under each theme that we've gone short, medium, and long term on, and we're looking for your feedback. Next slide. And here's the other additional. So you guys are special. This is the first reveal of this, outside of our task forces, for their input. Water and natural ecosystems, Hazel will be talking about that, and Sandy will be talking about the local economy and business. But definitely we want to hear your responses and your thoughts on some of these, as well as the other actions. And so, next slide reveals to you, which we've already done the introductions on, as to who our panelists are. And the question that they will be talking to you about, and that we want you guys to think about, is what can you do yourselves or with your groups and organizations to take action locally on climate change? And think about these theme areas, how you yourself represent those areas. Are there things you can associate with your actions? So now I'm going to pass on this, or maybe Liz, I don't know, I'll grab the microphone, and we're going to get our panelists. So I'm going to start with Hazel to talk about water and natural ecosystems.